It's noon. Feel free to be entering your name and affiliation into the chat. I'm sure Nicole will help me kind of intermittently putting our agenda into the chat so folks can join us there. But I'll kick us off. So welcome everyone to the April Network Cafe, Growing Food in a Changing Climate. My name is Caitlin Porter, and I'm the New Hampshire Food Hub Network Coordinator, a part of the team at New Hampshire Food Alliance. Colleen typically does this intro, but she's enjoying some well-deserved time off right now. So Nicole and I will be hosting this Network Cafe with you all today. For those of you new to the Food Alliance or Network Cafes, the New Hampshire Food Alliance is a statewide network that engages and connects people just dedicated to growing a thriving, fair, and sustainable local food system in New Hampshire. We host these monthly cafes where we tackle a discussion about relevant food system issues, often alongside our network partners, and highlight the great work that they do. We follow the academic year, so this will actually be our last cafe of the 2022-2023 series as we're busy planning for our statewide gathering in May. I think Nicole will help me and pop the link to some more information and registration for a statewide gathering if you want some more information on that. So this series of network cafes, we organized around the theme of building a climate resilient food system. And Nicole will help us kick off in just a minute to introduce our guests after just a couple more acknowledgements. It's important to note that we are housed within the Sustainability Institute at UNH, along with some other programs that a lot of you are probably familiar with, Food Solutions New England and New Hampshire Farm to School. New Hampshire, UNH is a land grant university, so we'd like to recognize the land that many of us are calling in from today, and specifically the land UNH resides on, by acknowledging the spiritual and physical connection the Pennacook, Abenaki, and Wabanaki peoples have maintained to the land, water, flora, and fauna, which the University of New Hampshire community is honored to steward today. In the spirit of creating a welcoming space for everyone, feel free to take a look at our community agreements. We can maybe put a link to that in the chat, or the link to it is in the agenda. If you haven't looked at them before, or if you'd like a refresher, basically the bottom of that page provides some characteristics we aspire to carry out throughout these cafes. There will be a quick 30-second evaluation we'd love for you all to fill out at the end of this. We'll be popping into the chat towards the end. It's also in the agenda. We greatly appreciate any feedback you have for us or any ideas you want to contribute. Last thing I'll say is just a reminder to use the chat throughout our next hour together. Provide your comments, share ideas or resources that you know about. We are a network, so we love the idea of our partners meeting new folks and connecting in new ways. I personally have met someone new, I think, at every network cafe I've attended, and usually just exchange contact information through direct messaging, follow up with people after. It's a great way to connect. And of course, use the chat to ask your questions. So with that, I'll hand it over to Nicole to introduce today's topic and our guests.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being with us today. So many of you are off video, which is completely fine if you're having lunch or just need to go on a walk and listen. But if you are sitting at your computer, I think it's helpful for all presenters to be able to see some faces of those listening. So join us on video if you can. I am excited today to introduce our topic. This is the last Network Cafe of our Building a Climate Resilient Food System series. And today we're focusing on lifting up local knowledge. And we're doing that by with three special guests talking about the Climate Farmers Stories program run by Vital Communities. So Cecily Anderson, Cecily, I hope I'm saying your name right, is going to kick us off by talking about storytelling and in the role of storytelling in awareness building, especially with dense and complex topics like food systems change. Erica Hiller will be a project manager for Vital Communities, is going to tell us about the Climate Farmers Stories program. And then we have Abby Clarke here of Winter Street Farm to talk about her plans for, as part of the cohort, the upcoming cohort for the Climate Farmers program. So thank you all for being here. And I'm going to hand it over to Cecily to start us off. Where are you, Cecily? Here you
I'm
are.
right here. Thanks.
Okay.
Hi, everyone. Thanks for having me. If it's all right, I'm going to share my screen so I can get some visuals up here.
Yes.
But in the meantime, I'll just begin by giving a brief intro to the project. So the Climate Farmer Stories project is a art-based celebration of Upper Valley farmers who are using their land to draw down carbon and build and protect biodiversity and make more resilient landscapes, and really to shore up food security in our communities. So we have been working for the past year with a group of farmers in the Upper Valley and a group of artists from Vermont and New Hampshire to create portraits of the farms and sort of a suite of materials and an exhibit in order to reach out to the public and educate folks about the connections between regenerative agriculture and sustainable farming practices and the climate, and how people in our region are actually taking direct action with their land to draw carbon out of the atmosphere while providing us with nutritious food. There's, I think, a general appreciation of, organic food is good for you, but I think, there's not the level of public engagement with agriculture as a tool in the fight against climate change and the effort to build our own resilience that we would like to see. So that's one goal of the project. And another is to connect farmers who are doing this kind of work and help them share skills and network together, and also take advantage of grant money that we're able to provide for marketing and message development and getting the word out about their individual farms. So there's sort of this public facing exhibit that's going to be traveling around that's currently up in the Vermont State House and up at Vail and South Royalton. We'll be up in maybe a dozen other places throughout the year. And then there's also this individual farm aspect of it. And let me see if I can just share my screen with you and get some of these visuals up, because this is a art-based project. So. All right. So one of the things we did as part of this process with Vital Communities is worked with some folks to help create message frames and basically figuring out the best and most effective ways to tell our stories to the public. And this was a collaborative process with the farmers and really driven by the farmers. How do we want to talk about this? What kind of language do we want to use to reach people? And how do you as farmers want to be represented?
Cecily, I think that we can't see the full slide. If you're trying to show a full slide, we can't see it.
Oh. What can you see, Nancy? Because I can see the full slide in my version.
We just see a little bit with, well, is it just me?
No, we can see it says click to add presenter note. Cecily, yeah. It might be a presenter's view that we're seeing.
Oh, yep. Okay. Let me see. I'm not sure. Oh, I must have selected the wrong window. I'm sorry. Let me just try this again. My normal mode of operation doesn't include a lot of screen sharing. All right, I'm going to try this one more time. Let me know if you see the same thing. Is it the same, or is it better now?
Nope, that's it.
Okay.
Got it.
Great. Okay, so as I said, the Climate Farmer Stories project uses art and stories featuring farmers in our community to spread awareness about the connections between how humans grow food and eat and the climate crisis. Let's see, here we go. So part of our project is really about like putting this personal voice in to help communicate this kind of complex and interesting science. But and for that, we really are using the farmers, but we also are providing people with a little bit of scientific background. So this is just a poster from our current exhibit that explains the science behind soil carbon sequestration, and gives readers 5 basic principles that a climate farm will be using to achieve soil health. I'm assuming there's probably a lot of knowledge about these topics among this crew. So I probably won't spend a whole lot of time like explaining the science here. And I'll just assume that there's people kind of understand that connection, and kind of float through these first couple of slides. Photosynthesis is great. Soil carbon sequestration is great. And then getting on to the artwork. So the climate farmers that we have been working with in the Upper Valley practice many different and overlapping farming methods, including no-till and low-till, cover cropping, crop rotations, and companion planting, silvopasture, managed grazing. I'm sure you guys will hear a little bit more about that later from Abby. And these all have really fascinating and complex interactions with the environment and with the farm. So to the public, we are highlighting just 1 or 2 practices or concerns for each farm, using quotes from interviews with the farmers to try to tell a complex story in a personal and accessible way. So for example, we have these big posters, and then next to them, there's these quotes from the farmers' interviews that highlight different aspects of the issue. And we know that human beings are just super social creatures, and they're very interested in what their neighbors are doing and saying. So we can reach out and teach people if we capitalize on this. So that's sort of the route that we've taken with this project, putting it all in a personal voice. You guys may recognize some of these farms. And we also tried to select a variety of different farmer types. There were many amazing applicants, and we couldn't take them all, unfortunately, but we did try to cover different aspects of what regenerative agriculture means in our community, including maple production. And of course, we also know that humans are irresistibly drawn to images of the human face. So if you think about most advertising, that's what you're really being sold with, is images of beautiful people. So we decided that by focusing on the farmers as characters and protagonists in this story, we can draw people of all ages in to align with a set of issues that we might not otherwise expect them to be drawn to engage with. Not everybody wants to go out and learn about soil science, but they might be interested in what their neighbors are doing. And another aspect of it for me, I think, is that farmers are really an archetype that New Englanders identify with. They're resourceful, hardworking, self-determined, rugged, independent, tan, strong. So seeing how individuals that reflect our cultural values are making a direct impact on the climate crisis with their own minds and sweat and land is very inspiring. Because of course, climate change is really scary and huge. And many of the changes society needs to make to address it feel systemic and global. It's the work of governments and huge corporations. It's hard to feel impactful as individuals. But the truth is that small farms still grow the majority of the food produced in the world. And they have a great resource under their feet in the soil. And they can directly build the resilience of their land, the health and food security of their communities. And then cumulatively, they can make an impact on mitigating global warming.
Cecily, I don't know if you're going to answer this or if Erica will, but could one of you speak to, this artwork is so beautiful, could one of you speak to the intentions for where it will be used and how it will be used? I've seen the calendar, but so maybe speak to that, but beyond that, are the farmers initiating that? Are you all help supporting that?
Sure. So, right at this moment, it's up in 2 exhibits that the public can see. And then it will be in exhibits at libraries and other institutions throughout the rest of the year. And then again, we actually have another cohort of farmers and artists just starting. So this will be also happening next summer and fall, in addition to this summer and fall. So yeah, some of you might have seen the calendar we put out. We'll be doing another one of those. And then in addition to sort of public visibility, some sort of ad campaign visibility, the farmers will have access to the art to promote their farms however they see fit. And if you happen to stop by an opening of one of the shows, you'll hopefully be able to buy posters and postcards, get some merch. But that sort of brings me back to like what might be a question in your mind, which is like, why use art? Like, why use artists to tell this story? And I think, for me, I'm an artist professionally. I do graphic design and illustration. I have a fine art background, so that's definitely like up my alley, and I just wanted to make art about this. But I think it also, using artists from Vermont and New Hampshire helps to bring not just visual variety to the style of the artwork, but human interest as well, because I think people love to go out and see art. So the farmers were able to pick from the artist applicants who would represent them. And I just think there's something very intimate in an artist's portrayal that doesn't always come through with a photo. It's like a very relational thing. For example, this farmer, Stephen Leslie and Carrie Gowalt from Cedar Mountain chose to work with this artist who has a very sort of devotional religious kind of style. And it was just really fascinating to me. I asked him why, and he said, I used to be a monk. So there's a very personal side to it for some of them, which is kind of cool. And I also find something very artistic in this way of farming. I think you have to be very sensitive and observant in order to farm well, and creative when applying your knowledge and skills to a particular piece of land. Regenerative agriculture is incredibly responsive to each unique setting. It's really about letting go of the idea that we can simplify and control food production as if it were separate from nature, and make the land conform to some ideal concept we have of how things should work for maximum output. Because land is a place, and by nature that's singular and local, and ecosystems really function best at their most complex. So the farmer has to observe the particularities of the place and time and weather and history and respond to those. And I think that portrait artists and farmers are not so different in this way. How does the light fall on this particular face at this particular moment? I think that's all of them. So I don't know if you want to have some questions for me now, or maybe move on and have Nancy take it from here.
I think it would be great if we had Erica to give us an overview of the project. That way we won't get questions that she's about to answer. And then we'll do, after Abby speaks, we'll have some Q&A for all of you. Great. Thank you so much for sharing. Erica, I'm looking for you.
Yep, I'm right here. Hi, everyone. My name is Erica Eller. I am a project manager at Vital Communities. I like to think all of you on this call know Vital Communities, but just in case you don't, we are a nonprofit based in the Upper Valley region of Vermont and New Hampshire. So we work in 69 communities on both sides of the Connecticut River. And we've been working with farmers in the Upper Valley for over 25 years. And my particular role, I'm a project manager in climate, agriculture, energy and economy. And I am really excited that I get to work on this particular project. And really so pleased that Cecily and Abby could join today too. So Cecily, as it turns out, she didn't say this, but I'm going to say it for her, but she was actually this whole project came out of an idea that Cecily had, and Cecily really was this creative force behind this project and as the creative director on board, but it was really her brainchild from the start. And so she partnered together with Vital Communities to develop this project, which we submitted a grant to USDA, and we received this grant through their FMPP program, which is the Farmers Market Promotion Program. As we mentioned, we have had one cohort of farmers. There were 13 farmers in our cohort that started a year ago, and we've just started a second cohort. So there'll be a whole nother round of artists working together with farmers, and more stories to tell, and more promotional materials to come out to really highlight this connection between farming and climate mitigation, climate adaptation, and community resilience. But as part of this kind of FMPP umbrella of USDA, it is also very much well, I'll back up. There are really three main components the way that I see the program. And one of them is this amazing audio visual storytelling component. So in addition to the artwork, there's an audio piece as well. So I'm really hopeful that when the exhibit is anywhere in the New Hampshire side, or even if you can get over to Vermont, that you all have a chance to actually see this exhibit. And you can hear each portrait has a really wonderful informational panel next to it, as well as an audio interview of the farmers. You can hear them directly in their own words as well. So in addition to this really tremendous audiovisual component that'll be traveling around the Upper Valley, we have also this marketing technical assistance component to the program. And so we have the farmers are working together with marketing technical assistance providers to get 10 hours of one-on-one technical assistance. And then they also get marketing stipends through the program. So really the kind of the goal is to, in addition to just really broadening public awareness of the importance of farming and agriculture and sustainable agriculture as we think about climate change, the other part is to actually promote these farmers' efforts and hopefully increase their direct market channel sales. So this is where the marketing piece comes in, and they receive some training in addition to the one-on-one technical assistance. But it's all kind of personalized, tailored work that they do with the marketing technical assistance providers. But then so the audiovisual, the marketing piece, and then there's also the farmer cohort piece, which is a really important piece of this. And Abby's gonna speak to her experience kind of broadly in the program and with the cohort. But one of the, I think it's just such an important piece, this peer-to-peer sharing and learning and support. Frankly, I think that over the course of the year, the farmers gather about once a month in person and also virtually as well. And they have, over the summer months when they're all extremely busy, we do twilight farm tours. So the farmers can kind of go and see like, what are the practices that they're implementing on each other's farm? And it's really, there's a lot of information exchange that happens just even in those twilight tours. They're more social, get together for dinner and share, and cohesion building amongst the group. But then when they are out of growing season, we move into other workshops and discussion circles for our monthly meetings. And one of the things that we did with this past year's cohort was working together. Cecily referenced it, but we worked together with a Vermont-based organization called Action Circles, and they have this process where they lead the group through what they call, it's called the current story analysis, where they as a group, they divide out and look at, they have all kinds of media that they're looking at and trying to take an objective view of what the current story is that's being told, to try to kind of step back from our own biases. We all have own biases that we're not super aware of. And so the idea was just to kind of expose them to a whole range of media, come back together and find the common threads and themes that are popping up, and then kind of working with this kind of more objective view of what's the current story that's being told. So this happened over a course of 3 meetings where the farmers were together, and we developed, they developed these message frames, which are really designed to shift the story, shift the messaging around the intersection of farming and climate change, and also just kind of really give farmers messages that are easy to kind of, hopefully easy to really push out there in the public, use them in materials. We're using them in a lot of promotional materials, but also just in conversation with people. So one of the frames that slides that Cecily had up was how farmers farm and eaters eat matters. Like, that's a really succinct message that came out, but there were 5 message frames overall. But I just kind of wanted to just kind of give an example of the power of kind of that process that we worked through with the farmers. And I think I'm going to read a little bit, I apologize about that, but it's easier for me to read it. But one of the findings that came out of this whole process was that farmers are sometimes portrayed as both the victim and the hero in the current story of farming and climate change. And that didn't necessarily always serve farmers very well. Like, if farmers are presented as the hero and put up on a pedestal, it's really not getting at, it's kind of placing responsibility on the farmers entirely in some way, as opposed to really talking about the fact that we need broader systems change. And so one of the message frames that came out of that finding is really that agriculture is one piece of the climate solution, but it is not the only solution. We need systems change. I think we all on this call realize that there's some real need for systems change. So that's, I just thought that was a very interesting piece of the program overall. And so we will continue kind of incorporating these message frames over the next year in the other promotional material that comes out, and with the new cohort of farmers. I'm trying to be aware of time because I really want to give Abby some good time to speak. So maybe I'll leave it there, and then when there are questions, I can respond.
That sounds good. Thank you, Erica. And we're going to push the breakout room back a bit, so Abby does have time. We won't rush her off. I'd love to hear, Abby, from you. So let's, I'm going to move over to Abby here.
All right. Hello. Thank you for having me here today. My name's Abby. I co-run Winter Street Farm with my partner, Jonathan. We are in our 4th year as a farm, so we're a pretty new farm. We're also transplants to New Hampshire. So this was a really good project for us to connect with other farmers and just kind of like really dive into the local farm community. So we were really super happy to be selected out of all the farms that that applied to the program. And over the past year, we've had a lot of great experiences with it. So for Winter Street Farm, we are no-till organic. We work on, we have a diverse vegetable CSA is the bulk of what we do. So we basically work on sequestering carbon into our soil and creating biodiversity on the farm to create a rich natural habitat so that we can create a resilient farm model for the changes that we expect to see in the future. And that, yeah, we were really happy to be part of this project because we were able to collaborate with people who are doing the exact same thing and work together on it and share ideas. Our farm has 1.75 acres of permanent beds that this year are going to be feeding 150 families, which is a lot of people. We just maxed out our CSA and have a lot of community support. And we're in Claremont, New Hampshire. Try not to miss any of the major points. And yeah, so our experience in the cohort has just been great because we are trying to create a more connected network of farmers in New Hampshire. We feel like there's so many good, awesome farms that are doing amazing climate friendly practices and, you know, organic practices. And that we being new into the area just haven't seen as much connection between them. We also work with NOFA. We've worked a lot with Vital Communities, and that's been great, but it seems to be like working, this project was amazing because we were working with Vermont and New Hampshire farmers and to try to like break down that that border a little bit, because there's just a little bit of a difference. There seems to be like a little bit of a stronger network on the Vermont side of things. So we're really pushing to do more with New Hampshire farmers and try to like connect more of us, especially doing all these practices. Yeah, the cohort was amazing. We love farm tours. Farm tours are always great. Farmers should always be forced to get off their farm and see each other in the growing season. Vital Communities did an amazing job of like feeding us and really like bribing us to leave the farm when we might just want to like harvest tomatoes until 8 o'clock at night. So that was good, healthy, and yeah, we were able to actually get onto each other's farms and not just see the story of what's going really well, because like you get a lot of that dialogue off the farm, but actually like during a farm tour, the more important part that you see is like what maybe didn't go so well, or like what are we both trying that we could use the information in advance to like make it go better from the get-go. So yeah, we really loved the Twilight Farm tours, and the fact that it was Vermont and New Hampshire, and just everyone's different climate stories, because we are I think we do mostly vegetables. We've added in chicken flock and a composting operation to try to close our nutrient cycle and really like decrease the amount of nutrients that we had to like ship from afar onto the farm. But like we were mostly vegetables, and other people were working on like ecological forestry, and other people were working on silvopasture and like and animal management, and these were things that like we don't specialize in. So it was amazing to see how their forms of farming are also interacting with the ecosystem and the creative ways that they've been able to create resiliency on their farm from what we see in the future for climate changes like drought and invasive species and all of the things that we're already seeing already. And we yeah, you know, how different people manage weeds on no-till farms. Like we're kind of all doing the same thing in our own little bubbles on land that we have a hard time leaving because we're working all the time. So that was amazing. The portraits were great. I loved what Cecily said about that it's the most important marketing is people's faces, because that's like the thing that we don't have pictures of. Like I don't have pictures of. Cecily actually did our portrait, which we absolutely loved. It has sunflowers and a dog in it. And when I was pulling up pictures for her to use, I couldn't really find any pictures of our faces, because I pretty much take pictures of vegetables and my dog, and it's not actually the best marketing. So like the most important part, like it was great to meet other farmers, but I'm not a professional marketing person. I'm a farmer, and it's good to specialize, but like we need support, and to create to get the push to have that presence is just super important for us, especially when we're all just so busy. And yeah, so thank you to the whole program for forcing us to show our faces. That was really good, and I'm super happy to have that portrait to put on Facebook and Instagram and just use anywhere we can. The other super important part of it was the grant money to use for marketing assistance, which we use. We're completely redoing our website. I made my own website 4 years ago, and I think I did just fine of a job, but it has always been a thing that we were going to have a professional do. And when we're, buying fertilizer and seeds, it's really hard to prioritize paying for marketing, because it's just a less tangible thing that can so easily be pushed off. So we used our funding. We're currently redoing the entire website, and we were able to use the marketing, the technical assistance, working with a group that Vital Communities connected us to try to streamline some of our online presence, newsletter, that type of stuff, to just make it more of a professional online presence. And that was super important. And because we actually, we're still expanding as a farm, and we're kind of at this place where we need the assistance to expand professionally moving forward. We sell out our CSA shares, but we're going to need to expand in the future. And we're trying to be more than just a place to get vegetables. We want to be an educational opportunity. We want to be an effect on the community, and have events and workshops. And we're just moving forward. This really helped us kind of get the backing we need to really push forward and be a larger presence for this stuff in the future. So yeah, it was really great. If they do future cohorts in the future, I know that the next cohort is all signed up for, but we definitely highly recommend it.
Thank you so much, Abby, and all of you. I want to take a few minutes here for Q&A before we jump into small groups. We have one question that was earlier up in the chat saying, I love this project. I do too, by the way. How do artists apply? Can you speak a little to that? And are they all illustrations, or photo illustrations, or are photographers possibly part of this as well? Erica or Cecily, want to take that?
Sure. Yeah, we actually, unfortunately, we just closed out our application process. And we do have, we have this is funded by a 2-year grant. So that's the current timeline for it. I'd love to do it again if the, funding became available somehow, but currently we're not planning on doing another one.
Thank you. Any other questions? I don't see any hands raised. We have information in the chat to read more about the program and to look at all of the artwork. Erica, yeah.
Yeah, there was one other thing I just wanted to mention briefly about the exhibit. So when we mentioned that it's in the Vermont State House at the moment, and I'm hoping that we can find more spaces in New Hampshire, particularly we have a whole other year to plan. But at the moment, I think what's really exciting about this in the State House is that they have rural Vermont and NOFA Vermont have a small farm action day. And some of the farmers will actually be able to be there meeting and greeting with legislators, talking to the legislators directly while the artwork and all the information that goes together with the artwork is up all around them. So it can have a really great impact. And I think about these things in terms of like the Farm Bill is under development right now. And I feel like this is a really powerful storytelling tool and a way to get people to really think about the issues that are affecting small farms and climate resilience.
Absolutely. So I'm hearing if anyone in the group has ideas, and I do have ideas, I'm going to follow up, Erica and Cecily, with you afterwards about some ideas of exhibiting in New Hampshire. But if others have ideas, please share them offline or in the chat now with Erica. All right, last call for questions. You were all so clear and informative. No one has questions for you. All right, well, we can, yep.
I've got a quick question. I'm wondering if there's any, is the Twilight series also a part of this grant and therefore will discontinue with it? Or are there any kind of, at least maybe from a farmer perspective, things that are lasting, the connections that you made? Is there any, I just think it's so valuable. An outcome that came from this is the getting farmers off the farm, you know, as you said, Abby, when you could easily be picking tomatoes until twilight. Are you, Abby, maybe planning on continuing any of these relationships with the farmers that you connected with?
Oh, definitely. I mean, we're very friendly people and we love other farmers. We all made lots of connections that continued off of it. Like there's people there that, I mean, yeah, we definitely would, I mean, either like go take part in their events, because like we all do events on our farms, like not all of us, but like we actually built a giant pizza oven last year. So for our Twilight on this farm, we were able to make pizza for people, and like hopefully they'll come to our future events. And we got to meet this farm actually just last week called Calabash that is the largest saffron grower, and we happen to be growing saffron, and that was like probably the most valuable information I could have received about our growing practices there. And there are the one program that I know of that continues on is called Craft through NOFA New Hampshire. And that's a really good program to take part in, where basically it's farm tours. But I also would support anyone's efforts to do more on farm stuff that, you know, kind of targets each other.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, Abby. Erica, you wanted to add something?
In fact, we to add to that, we had at our last in-person meeting of the first cohort of farmers, you know, we asked about how they felt. We, you know, at that point, it wasn't clear that they were going to continue meeting and spending time together. And there was a resounding, like, we would really love opportunity to continue on. And so they will kind of stay engaged over this next year. And as a result of that conversation, there's been interest in like monthly virtual dinners for the group to continue to be connected and share ideas. And they, you know, and that kind of thing could continue on if there's interest afterwards. And I know that Vital Communities is committed to continuing to try to find ways to support farmers that are doing climate mitigation and adaptation practices. So to be continued.
Great. Well, why don't we take a few minutes to break into small groups and get to meet one another and talk with one another. And so this is the last of the Climate Resilient Network Cafe series. So the original question for the breakout rooms was to introduce yourself and share something that stuck with you, from whether this is your first one or you've been to all of them over the last 6 months, something that stuck with you from it. And then I want to add a second question, which is, do you have ideas for sharing these climate farmer stories, this program and this beautiful artwork in New Hampshire? And if you do, you know, share it with the group, put it in the chat so we can capture it and get it to Vital Communities. I think that's something that we can all contribute as a network to helping amplify this great work. Okay, so we'll do that for just a few minutes, and then we'll circle. We'll end with we'll end 5 minutes early. So we'll break out for 10 minutes, and then let's come back to quick close. Here we go. All right, I hope you all had nice discussions. I have 2 requests. 1, take the evaluation. It's very fast. And secondly, consider joining us for the New Hampshire Food System statewide gathering in May. Thank you to Cecily and Abby and Erica for your incredible work and for being here. That was so wonderful to hear, and it's very inspiring. And I know that many of us are eager to amplify. So if you have ideas, or you talked about ideas in your breakout room for how to help with that, let me know, and I'll get those ideas to Vital Communities, or reach out to them directly. And otherwise, we will see you all soon. Thank you for being part of our Network Cafe series.